So the purveyors of nightlife treat the consumers of nightlife the same way carnival workers and operators treat the amusement seekers at carnivals, the consumers of a carnival. So that nightlife consumers are treated as marks. So mark is carny lingo for an easy target, someone who's gullible and can be separated from their money through trickery and distraction. So carnivals employ all sorts of age-old, time-tested strategies for swindling the people who go to carnivals out of their money. So carnivals, as we're all likely aware of, are these traveling amusement centers that set themselves up in one town. So they got all the tents and the midway and the Ferris wheel, all the various carnival games. So when the carnival comes to town, all the locals are attracted to seek out some amusement. And the most perceptive of the carnies would be located at the ticket booth at the front entrance to the midway. And the ticket seller would keep a close eye on everyone entering into the carnival and try to determine which of the locals, aka townies, have brought a lot of money and might be gullible enough to lose it. So the person working the ticket booth, as they're selling these townies the tickets to get into the carnival, they might shortchange the customer. So after the customer gives their money to pay for the tickets, the ticket seller might deliberately not give back all of their change just to see if the townie notices. If they don't notice or count their change, then the ticket seller knows they got a victim on their hands. And what would happen next is that the ticket seller gives the customer, the local, the townie, some friendly advice. Again, pretending to have that genuine connection of, hey, I like you more than all the other customers, so I'm going to give you a bit extra. And the ticket seller would tell that soon-to-be victim all of the booths and the games they should visit and play, and will send that townie on their way to be swindled. So where does the term mark come in? Well, the first game that they play, that's the confidence game. That's the one that's supposed to raise their confidence. So at the first booth that townie plays, they'll win, and they'll be given a big ostentatious prize, such as an oversized stuffed teddy bear or a big red balloon, so that they have to spend the rest of their night walking along the midway with that huge red balloon or that huge teddy bear. And that's what marks them to the other carnival workers. The workers in those other carnival games booths see the person with the large red balloon or the large teddy bear and see that they've been marked. They're easy money. And they call over those marks. They say, excuse me, sir, you look like you'd be able to win this game. Why don't you give it a shot? And after that first game that raised their confidence and got them the balloon or teddy bear that marked them, every other game is near impossible after that. Kind of exploiting that confidence and that false sense of invulnerability to take money from that townie for every game they play, so that by the end of the night, without the townie even realizing it because they were having so much fun and they were so distracted, they're out of money, or they have barely enough money for a bus ticket home, because the carnival workers don't want that townie hanging around after and being all upset and angry and wanting their money back. They want to leave that person with just enough money to take themselves home and get out of the carnie's way, so that the carnies can pack up their tents and then move on to the next city to start the con all over again. So many nightlife consumers are treated as marks, who are amusement seekers in their own right. They're not going to a carnival though, they're going to other nightlife establishments, but the same principle is at work there. And think about who usually visits nightlife establishments. It's typically tourists who are visiting the city for a night or a few nights, and thus, like the carnival goer, they won't be around to complain by the time they realize they've been taken a fool. And also many nightlife consumers are young people, such as university students, who may not have a lot of life experience, and thus they can be preyed upon for their lack of life experience and taken advantage of if they're a bit naive and they haven't felt the harshness of the world yet. It could be easier to trick them. Or also affluent business travelers who again are just in town for the night and they got plenty of money to spend. All of these demographics are treated by the producers of nightlife as marks who can be wined and dined and shown a good time while money is just flowing from their pockets throughout their nightlife experience. So there's a quote from the reading that to swindle a sucker, his feet must not be permitted to touch the ground. So you can't bring them back to reality. You got to keep them suspended in that state of enchantment and intoxication where their critical faculties of self-awareness are temporarily suppressed, and they're more susceptible to being seduced and beguiled by all the glitz and glam and the highly scripted repeat performances of those service workers, such as the bouncer and the waiter and the bartender, that strike the mark as being genuine and spontaneous. So maybe you can think of a time that you got scammed or someone you know got scammed, and how did it work? How did the scammer go about trying to separate you from your money? And what kind of parallels can you draw between the strategies adopted in that scam and the strategies adopted by the producers of nightlife? Like, I had a friend in first year undergrad who fell for one of those Nigerian prince email scams, that famous internet scam where someone pretends to be the son of a deposed prince in Nigeria, and they just happen to reach out to you of all people because you're special, and they need you to be the one that they send millions of dollars to. But all you have to do is send them a small fee first. They usually have some sort of explanation for why this is necessary, why you need to send the Nigerian prince $5,000 in order for you to get 50 million from them. It's not logical, but like I said, we try to trick ourselves in those moments. So my friend in undergrad, he was a smart guy. I don't fault him for falling for it. It could be any of us. It was just, he was young and he didn't have a lot of life experience up to that point. He just saw an opportunity to make easy money, and he wanted to convince himself that it was true, even though deep down he probably realized it was too good to be true. So people pursue nightlife for that feeling of genuine adventure and excitement. And through nightlife, they get a superficial and contrived reproduction of what they're looking for while paying the price of admission at every step along the way. So just like that townie has to pay a fee at every booth in the carnival that they play a game, think about how many steps along the way in your nightlife experience you have to cough up some money. Even before you get to the club, you got to dress up in the latest fashion and stylings. So the money spent on heels and shoes and dresses and dress shirts and cosmetics and hair products. And sometimes you need to buy a ticket ahead of time for a club if like there's a musical performer or something. And then you still got to wait in line. And then you got to pay for coat check. And then you got to pay for each and every drink. And how you going to get there if not for a cab you got to pay for? Oh, you want to eat too? Well, that's going to cost you more. Oh, another drink? Yeah, that's going to cost you. Oh, hey, you need to go to the washroom? Why don't you tip the bathroom attendant while you're in there? They gave you a mint. Oh, another drink? Yeah, that's $19.99. Plus tip, thanks. And like I said, despite this, or maybe even in a subconscious attempt to cope with this, we try to trick ourselves into thinking that we're getting something out of the deal. Like, oh yeah, I had to pay for coat check, but the person working at coat check winked at me. So, as I mentioned when talking about con games and con artists, they typically exploit people who are easily persuaded to follow that inner hustler they have inside themselves. We all have a bit of greed and occasionally want something for nothing. It feels good when we felt like we got more out of a deal than we put into it. That's why the Nigerian prince email scam was so effective, because it's like, oh, you only have to put in a couple thousand and then you'll get millions in return? Who doesn't want to make a quick buck? So that sometimes when we hear a deal that we should know is too good to be true, like if we just take a step back and survey the situation logically, we can probably deduce that, okay, this is a scam. But in the moment when we're all hyped up and our confidence has reached an all-time high and we're just overly fixated on the potential rewards that are promised us, then that tends to bypass our logical thinking. And it's often done in a way to feed on and exploit our impulsivity. They want you to make impulsive, stupid decisions. They don't want you to sleep on the decision and wait till morning. They want you to rush out right now. And oh, I gotta find an ATM. I need to withdraw money right now. I'm about to make the deal of a century. So that we're not only tricked into believing we're destined for riches and rewards, but we trick ourselves into believing it because we want to believe it. Like, even though everyone is well aware of the Nigerian prince email scam, maybe the one that's sent to you is the real one though. Maybe there is really a real Nigerian prince and all the other ones are fake, but the one that you got is the only real one. Like, people are capable of these mental gymnastics and they can delude themselves into doing things that they could regret later on. So nightlife producers try to feed and augment that small inner desire. Like I said, it's inherent to all of us. It's just a tiny little voice in the back of our heads saying, "Oh, this is the real Nigerian prince." But con artists and nightlife producers try to make that voice louder and louder so that it's no longer a small voice in the background. It's now a loud, overwhelming voice in the forefront, either forefront or foreground of your mind. And it just supersedes any logical decision making in favor of rash decision making that ends up costing people more than the rewards that they were promised. And this happens at various levels. It could be at the level of a major scam of thousands of dollars, or it could be as simple as, hey, that server smiled at me. I feel like I got something for nothing. But surely it's not too good to be true. Surely they like me for me and didn't just smile because I want a big tip. So I'll give them a big tip, and maybe they'll give me their number. Or even outside of romantically, maybe that server gave me a complimentary appetizer. So therefore, I'm going to tip them more than that appetizer ever would have costed in the first place. So that people go into the night expecting or searching for a little something for nothing, and this avarice could be exploited so that they end up giving something for nothing.